Which two cards do you think we're going to talk about today? Hi there, and welcome to Beyond the Shuffle, a podcast where we explore this wild ride of the human experience through the lens of tarot. I'm Adrian Amari, your host, guide, and someone who loves to talk tarot with others. So settle in, open your mind, and let's go beyond the shuffle. This week on Beyond the Shuffle, we are doing conversations with cards, and I have Brandon Croud here with me, metaphysical practitioner. We're going to pull some cards and chat about them. But first, Brandon, thank you so much for doing this. Welcome to Beyond the Shuffle. And tell us a little bit about what you do.
It's awesome to be here with you. I have enjoyed getting to know you a little bit over the last few months and had a great time when you came on my podcast, which was awesome. So I'm looking forward to this very much. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I've got a unique background. At least that's what I've been told a lot lately. 20 years corporate America, a long journey of podcasting. Actually, I have published over 350 shows, but most of that was in a completely different realm. I did a NASCAR podcast for 8 years, and since starting my spiritual practice, have started a podcast called the Awaken Crowd podcast, which is the name of my practice. And I love puns. My last name, Crowd. It's had to be the Awaken Crowd. I have a small catering company that is called Freeze a Crowd. So anytime I can work a pun into something, I am going to do it.
Love
But
that.
thank you. My awakening journey was an interesting one in that I always knew there were spiritual gifts present and active within me, but I suppressed them for a very, very long time. And my wife and I, we have a 4-year-old son, and he's what cracked me open. Was when we had him, I started remembering so much from my childhood and things that I could see, feel, and do. And everything just started coming back online, and I embraced it 150%. And that led me to embracing my inner nerddom, if you will, and went and got a PhD in metaphysics because I wanted to understand, not just, okay, I know I can do and feel and understand these things, but I wanted the background. I wanted the history. I wanted the quote unquote science to this because I truly believe it is a science basis, if you will. I know a lot of people don't in the secular world. A lot of people maybe don't appreciate or think metaphysics is a true science, but I think as the collective conscious continues to awaken, I think it's going to become a much more accepted uh, phrase, practice, science, terminology, all of the jargon as things continue to develop over the next few years. So I
Agreed.
am
Yeah.
happy to be here, helping and serving the humanity that resonates with me.
I love that. And yeah, I 100% agree. I love the kind of where the spirituality and the science comes together because I think the more that we go into this, the more we're finding that they are intertwined. And that
Hmm.
is a fascinating, but also very comforting in a way for me. I don't know if you feel the same in the comfort
Yes,
sense, but yeah, there's just something to it where you're
absolutely.
like, ah, yes, like it makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean the amount of aha moments that I have, either in my own inward journey or when I'm working with people, like it's amazing watching and experiencing someone else have that aha moment. But and I'm sure you've experienced this too, having those aha moments while working with other people for yourself, and
Yeah.
it truly demonstrates the uh, universe mirroring back what we need, all of those things, and it's magical to see happen and watching it unfold in real time.
Totally. I was just talking about that the other day too, where it's interesting that a lot of the times you get clients who are mirrors in some way, where they're either mirroring a past thing, like a past version of yourself, where you're like, oh, I've been that. I know how to help you through this. Or they're kind of
Hmm.
mirroring what you're going through and it helps you kind of release or explain or understand in a whole new, deeper level. And I love that. Like I love the synchronicity
Absolutely.
that comes from that.
Yeah, one of the things that happens a lot for me is It's so easy to coach somebody through something, and because it's not you.
Mhm.
And when you face that same issue or challenge or problem, whatever you want to call it, it's like, well, wait a minute. I said with conviction the same circumstance, what this person needed to do.
Mhm.
Why am I having such a hard time accepting that? And it forces you to do some work. And that's the what I really love about it.
Yeah, and you need to, and because we continue to grow, we continue to learn, we continue to expand, and I think if you don't take the time to really contemplate that as well, then you do stagnate, and that's
Hmm.
not helpful to anyone.
No, no, not at all. Not at all.
All right, cool. So I know you have a tarot deck with you. So can you
I
tell
do.
us a little bit about whether you're interested in tarot or the deck that you have? Which deck are you using?
Yeah. So I use tarot in my practice, whether if people like want just a reading, or if I'm doing a like a spiritual coaching session with somebody, um, I will end the session with a mini reading for them to kind of see where their current energy is at, and kind of where their next steps and where they're being called to take that energy as they're moving through their journey. And I use it for myself. When I was first going through my awakening and stuff like that, I dove into tarot because I remember, in my early 20s, I would go get a reading from someone that was very well respected locally here in Metro Detroit. And I love the card. I was fascinated by the cards. I was fascinated by the accuracy. And when I embraced this path for me, I'm like, I have to learn. I want to learn this now. I don't want it to be the mystery. I want to be able to do it for myself. And so I dove in, and I was attracted to this deck. I've got a few, but this is definitely my favorite. It's Y Spells Wild Reflections. I love the deck from the artistic piece of it on each card. One thing I've told people about why I still resonate with this deck is it's like a movie I've watched 100 times. I can get the same card, or I can see a card, and something random will pop out to me from the artist's work that I never noticed before with the deck. And so I keep getting drawn back to that deck. It's the one I use the most, and I love it.
I love that. Yeah, I have a couple. I call them security blanket decks. I have a few of those. The one I
I love
chose
that.
today is not a security blanket deck. Yeah, I feel like it's getting there. But
Okay.
I chose the Terra Volatile only because I think the art is really cool. I thought it'd be a really fun deck to use for us chatting today. So we're going to both pull a card. So go ahead and shuffle
Yes.
up. If we pull the same
Okay.
card, one of us can pull again.
If we pull this, has that ever happened?
No, not yet.
No? Okay. All right.
But it would be kind of wild if it does, wouldn't it?
That would be fun. I mean, you want to talk about a mirrored reflection if we both
Right?
pull the same card at the same time.
I feel like we have
All
pretty good
right.
odds though that we won't. So
Right?
let me know when you pulled yours when you're good.
All right. Ooh, okay. Um, if we're gonna go the reverse route, it is reverse. It is the reverse Knight of Wands.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about it both ways, just because I
Okay.
think there's so much to talk about it, and I don't want to limit it by just looking at it in one way. So we'll
Sure.
definitely go
Yeah.
both ways. I love that you pulled the knight. You said right of wands.
Yes. The
Yeah,
Knight.
I pulled
Yep.
the page of wands. So
Ooh,
we're very
awesome.
close.
And that was the one I had on my reading earlier this week was, or no, it was the Page of Swords. Page of Swords I pulled. Page of Swords.
Page of swords is one of my favorites, but like funny that we are very, very close
We
here
are very so yes,
in our
yes.
choices.
Hmm.
Um, so let's start with the page only because they come first in the rank
Sure.
progression, if that's okay with you.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
always see the Page of Wands as new adventures, the one who is ready to set out on something new and exciting, but they're a little bit nervous. Like there's a little bit of that anxiety energy because they're like, ooh, can I do this? And they want to be brave and they want to follow the ambition and they want to go forth. But there is like building up the courage to actually get on with it. So I always kind of feel that energy. How do you normally see the page?
So I mean the page, I kind of feel like it's the fool of the knights, or the royalty cards, if you
I
will,
agree.
right? Like
Yep.
when we think of the fool, it's the young, curious, naive energy. And here we have the page who has that same energy. He knows he's in line to go and do some things. He's getting ready to maybe have more authority as he continues to grow and develop. And I think that's how I approach the page cards, are from that curiosity perspective. Like they're responsible, but they're still going to have some mess ups every
Oh, of
now
course.
and then, just
They're just
because of that
figuring it out.
curiosity.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, like
yes,
there's still, I always feel like it's like a young energy. Not that you have to be young to receive the card, but it's
right.
more of a
Yes,
fresh energy that's, still kind of figuring out how does this element feel. And with the
yeah,
wands, we have fire. So I can see why they'd be like, okay, I'm so excited. I'm so ready for this. Oh my God, am I actually ready for this?
right. Yeah, yes. Like I also view the page, especially the wands and even somewhat of the swords. And I'd love if to throw this back to you from a question perspective. The wands and swords to me have a lot of similar energy in terms of, they're both of those suits are very action based and very action heavy energy. The page of wands, I feel like that's he's trying to build. He's getting ready to build, or he wants to. It's project based curiosity from some degree. I feel like with the page of wands.
Mhm. Yeah, I always think of it as ambition, dreams, desires,
Hmm.
where it's
Sure,
something that
absolutely.
actually
Yeah,
like
like
lights,
he's.
yeah, like it lights you up. It's not just like I'm
Mhm.
doing this for the sake of doing it. It's like I'm doing it because I want to be doing it.
Yes, like he's gotten his nudge, I feel like, from his team, his guides. Like he knows he's supposed to go and build something. He might get distracted along the way,
Of course.
but he is focused on the end result, I feel
Mhm.
like.
Yeah. And I always say too, and this actually goes a lot into the Knight of Wands as well, but with the page, the Knight, and the wands in general, we need a funnel. If you think of fire, fire can burn everywhere and it can also burn nowhere, right? Like it could do
Sure.
so much
Yeah.
damage or it can be channeled and get something done. So I feel like that page of wands energy, it needs a little bit of that plan to channel it in some meaningful way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about that. I feel like too, like I feel like he's more connected
Mhm.
than the Page of Swords sometimes.
Mhm.
From a channel perspective, from a in intuitive perspective, I
Okay.
think would probably be the more the sharper phrasing to use than, for example, like the Page of Swords. I feel like the Page of Swords is a little bit more, quick to react, but it's not necessarily an intuitive quick to react. It's more maybe reacting to the environment around, which maybe doesn't always, it may prolong the end result.
Mhm. Well, as someone who identifies very strongly with the page of swords, I feel like the track is because you get stuck in the thought process part. Like I find the wands so much more instinctual, where
Sure.
the swords is much more like that rational and logical. So you get the idea, but then like you go down that rabbit hole. And I feel like the
Hmm.
page of
Hmm.
wands doesn't have the rabbit hole in that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Yes. Now, and if I'm going to get ahead, like from a reverse perspective,
Yes.
now mine was reverse, yours wasn't, but like, how would you, from your perspective, does reverse always mean blockage, or how do you interpret or
Ooh.
distinguish between whether it's a block or another potential meaning behind the reverse cards?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's one that you can get so deep into. I honestly have to admit, I don't read it the same way every time because I think
Sure.
context really matters. And I think you can tell which way it's leaning depending on what's around it, who you're talking to, what the conversation's like, all that sort of stuff. So it could be a blockage or a delay where it's like, yes, we're ready to start on this new adventure, but not quite yet. Like we need to like finish this before we're ready for this kind of next new thing in our lives. But it could also
Sure.
be we're getting in our own way where we're too scared to take that step, or we're really in the idea phase and we're not in the action phase quite yet.
Absolutely. That makes sense. Does it matter for you, or how much of a impact does that have for you, depending on the type of reading that you're doing, in terms of like whether, maybe it's a Celtic cross reading or a specific energy reading, or the your client wants focus specifically on a certain topic kind of a thing?
Yeah.
How does that impact for you at all?
I would say for sure, yeah, because I think everything's a story, right? And it can
Yeah,
just
yeah,
change the way that you look at the story or that it's influencing the story. So I think it does
sure,
depend. I mean, you would read it differently in a career reading versus a love reading,
sure,
right?
absolutely.
Especially
Yeah,
like
yeah.
reverse. Like if it's reversed in a love reading, I'm immaturity. Like that's where I'm going. We're going right to the immature.
All day long.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you got.
Next card.
That's all I'm going this one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
How about you? How do you usually see it reversed?
Um,
Page or cards in general?
yeah. So I again, I'm with you on the context side of things. It's funny because if the person I'm doing the reading for, you know, doesn't want to give me a lot, I totally get it. That's fine. But that's normally when I'll go the blockage route,
Mhm.
because they probably have either maybe a little stigma, or they're testing me, which I understand, because you're not really testing me, you're testing yourself to some capacity, So if they don't want to give, which like I said, I understand. I typically lean more on the blockage side of things.
Okay.
And then, like, it just depends on, I'm a big, let's tell the whole picture. Like, let's look at the cards individually. And then, as we're wrapping, I paint the picture and wrap it up in a nice little bow. And so then it's like, okay, if, for example, there's only one reversed card and it's in the middle of the spread, well, then I'll go clockwise around the rest of the cards with them and say, this is reacting to this from this way, and kind of go around and tie it together. And then I'll also sometimes take it a step further, depending on what other cards are around, and go, here's how you can flip it around so it isn't
Mhm.
reversed,
Yes.
by adjusting the energy or adjusting the thought process, or, how you react or move could flip this the other way, especially if it's about like someone's, if the reading is going a lot on emotion or how they react and respond to things. A lot of it's probably doing or having to deal with a lot of inner work that they need to do themselves, and how they can flip that and change the direction, and, give it more of their make it more of an empowerment thing for the person getting the reading.
Yeah, I love that too with the reversals. I did a bachelorette party this past weekend, and
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
was doing like Celtic crosses just because it's a nice general reading and like everyone kind of
Sure.
gets the same amount of time. And for hopes and fears, I did have one lady get the Two of Cups reversed. So
Okay.
and I was like, "Are you afraid of being in a relationship? Like, are you afraid of being alone, really?" And she's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I am." And I was like, "Well, giving into the fear is not going to help that though. Like, we don't want it reversed. We want it upright. Like,
Sure.
we want the
Yeah.
hope." So
I
yeah,
think the Two of Cups and the Lovers card, I think, could be interpreted very similarly together, especially if it's reversed.
yeah,
It's a lot of more of that self-love. You need to be okay with yourself to be able, I mean, you can have all the relationships you want,
for
but if
sure.
you want to have healthy relationships, and you want that you want to flip that reverse Two of Cups, you got to be good with yourself before anybody else can be good with you.
Well, and also not give into the fear of being alone or the fear of being hurt again, right? Because
Sure. Yeah.
it's easy to do. It's not a criticism. I'm sure we've all been there. We've all done
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
When is the time in your life where you felt like the Page of Wands?
Honestly, I kind of feel like it right now, if I'm being honest, because I am in a kind of a rebuild phase in some capacity. I know my business is about to take a new direction. So I'm very curious. I'm very excited. I know there'll be some hiccups and, trial and error periods along the way. But as I was saying earlier, where I think the Page of Wands is a little bit more in tune. I am listening to myself more now than I ever have.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an exciting journey as I move to the Knight and to the Queen and to the King.
I like how you're already planning to move up all the ranks. You're like, I've
That's
got
right.
this.
That's right.
That's wonderful.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I think that's
How
one of
about
my
you?
favorite. Oh yeah, I was gonna say that's one of my favorite things is to see how we see ourselves in the cards. And for
Hmm.
me, I always think of when I was going to Japan for
Okay.
either time really. The first time I went on an exchange, and I had never traveled by myself, let alone
Okay.
traveled halfway around the world by myself.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I remember getting on the plane and like I was so excited and it was like new adventure, brand new horizons, like great opportunity to experience all these exciting things. And then I panicked. It's like, why am I on this plane? Turn around. Like it was, that kind of that doubt or that anxiety very
Sure.
much swelled up. But once I settled down, I was like, this is going to be great for me. Like this will be good. And it was. It was a really good experience. I'm glad I did it.
That's
But
awesome. How long
yeah.
ago was that?
Well, that's a loaded question. I went there
Oh, okay.
1 year for university, and then I graduated university and then lived there for 5 years. So I actually moved
Oh,
to
okay.
Japan kind of twice in my life.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
wow.
but
Okay.
I've been back in Canada for 11 years now, so
Okay. That's
it
cool.
was a
That's
while
right. I
back.
knew you were in Canada. Yes.
Yeah.
Not to completely go sidetrack, but here in Detroit today, it was 97 degrees and
Yeah.
no,
I
no,
think we're
I'm over that.
93 Fahrenheit.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
for my Canadians, like 33
Yeah.
Celsius.
I was going to say, like, you got to do the conversion.
Always. I have it on my phone, so I don't have to do the
Yeah.
math. And I love that it's so hot and we both pulled wands. So I feel like
Yes.
how
Yeah,
funny
the
is that,
fire.
right?
Ah, uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep. Yep.
All right, so that's our page. I think we've done the page pretty good. So let's move
Yeah.
into what you pulled, our Knight of Wands. So love that we're
Yes.
progressing. So this is the page grows up a little bit, um,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
they get to the Knight.
Yeah. So I'll show my card.
Yeah.
So that is the Knight of
Oh,
Wands.
yours is a much more chill night than mine. So just for
Okay.
anyone listening, Brandon's is in a boat with a dog.
Yes. Yes.
Mine is on some kind of skeletal beast with fire and flags.
Oh, yeah, that is a much more aggressive Knight of Wands.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of an intense night.
Yes.
Still valid
Yes.
either way.
Right. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, so for me, I love this card, and I actually feel like it was given in this with intention because, like you said, with mine, it's a guy in a boat with a golden retriever. The water is calm and it's smooth. He's not overly rowing. He is being guided and led and not forcing any action whatsoever. And I think, as we talked about, the page to the Knight, right? Like it's that graduating step. Like he's not trying to control or force. He knows he's going to get where he's supposed to go. And the fact that I pulled this reverse as I'm talking about me being in this new season, this new journey, this new building, um, my one of my biggest faults is if I don't catch myself quick enough, my mind will spiral in the chaos and the noise of the 3D and all of that kind of stuff to where when I got this reverse, the first thing I thought about, why would I be paddling upstream? Like, what sense does that
Why
make?
make it
Why
harder?
resist? Why make it harder on myself? Just let the current take you, and relax and release some of that chaos and the frustration and the noise within our minds of the life, the responsibilities, all of that. And I know it sounds cliche, and for those that don't understand, oh sure, anyone can say let it go and just you know how the hell am I supposed to do that? And then that gets into the whole new ball of well, why don't you trust? And we all have reasons why
Sure.
trust has or is an issue depending on the triggers and all of that stuff. So for me, getting that card was very eye-opening for me of, hey, you are, like you just said, you are trusting yourself and listening to yourself more than ever. trust that and let the current take you.
I love that though. I love the don't paddle upstream. That I like that a lot. Because when I see the Knight of Wands reverse, the first thing that always comes to mind is, oh, you're frustrated. Like you're making
Hmm.
yourself frustrated. You're making it harder on yourself. It feels like it's a little bit out of control because you're either chasing too many ideas or too many things at once instead of just allowing yourself to kind of trust the process and go with what you want to set out to do. It's very easy
Absolutely.
to get distracted with some
Absolutely.
of those nights.
Yes. Yes. Right. Like that's part of, I think, especially if you're in an awakened journey, I think, um, the lessons hit a little bit harder, and they also, I think, sometimes take a little longer to land sometimes because we know better in some capacity. We know, but we
Do we do
still
it?
make it
That's a
hard
different
on
question.
ourselves.
Like, we
Right,
might know better,
exactly.
but do we follow it?
Exactly. Exactly. And so that's part of the I think, we can cliche and joke about the matrix or the game of this reality that we're in. But I've always said, the cliches are cliches because they're real.
Yeah.
And I feel like, once you really break it down and someone goes, "Oh, is it really that simple?" Yeah, it's supposed to be that simple. But preconditioned in society and all of the external noise and factors of the world have forced us to complicate things way beyond what
Oh,
they're
for
supposed to
sure.
be.
Yeah.
So when you strip it down, yeah, it is that simple. But
Yeah.
again, I can tell you that, and you can tell someone that until it's like, oh shit, I really got to reel this in for myself.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it's the awareness of it too, because at least you can recognize when you're doing it most of the time.
Hmm. Yes,
That's half the battle.
yes, yeah,
So
exactly, yes,
how about in a more upright position? How would you look at
yeah.
him?
In the upright position, I'm viewing it as is you are listening to yourself. You are going with the intuition. You are being led versus chasing. And I think chasing is a word that's used a lot in the spiritual community. I feel like so. I'll break that down from a context perspective in terms of, you know, when we talk about chasing, it's trying to force things. Whether it's money, career, house, relationships, anything that you feel like you are trying to force or manipulate an outcome on, that's the reverse of the card. That's you resisting what's being naturally given to you or you're being naturally led through, and you're resisting that. And so the more you resist, that's where when people say, "Oh, when it rains, it storms," kind of a thing, because that's the universe mirroring it back to you harder and harder and harder until you either pay attention or you finally just hit rock bottom and you fully release and give into that. And that's when things end up typically rebuilding or going along that road.
Mhm.
So the upright, you're in tune, you are aligned with
Mhm.
your path, with whatever the topic or conversation is that's being discussed in that reading. You're good. You are keep doing you at that point, basically.
And I always see the Knight of Wands as that bold action. Like he gives no Fs, basically. They're going to go and
Yeah,
chase what they want to go for, and they're not going to let something or someone else stand in their way because they have that dream and that desire and that kind of gumption behind them to be like, no, like I can do this and I will take the bold action, the intentional action to get there because they do want to become queens and kings. That's the
sure,
knight's
right,
whole goal.
yes, yeah,
That's
yes.
the progression. And I know with the knights too, especially the Knight of Wands, a lot of people see it as impulsive. And I think he can be, because I think it's like there is a restlessness to kind of just act,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
is how I always kind of see it. Cause like that with that heat and that fire. And I always see them as kind of charming too, though. There's a bit of charm to the
Yeah, like
Wands.
I can see that. I think I get that with a lot of the knights though throughout the deck, because they're beyond they're not 19 anymore. They've maybe had their career for a minute, if we're going to use a little bit more 3D terms. You know they've been around the block a minute. They've done
Yeah.
their partying days to some degree. They like to hang out on maybe a Friday night, decompress from the week. but they know if they stayed in the party mode, it just pushes the dreams and the aspirations further down the road, and they're ready for it. So they're a little bit more responsible.
For sure, yeah, and I think it's also part of the night's journey or lesson is finding the balance in that too,
Yeah, yes,
because they don't
absolutely.
have mastery
Absolutely.
yet.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yes, yes, yes.
So, can you think of, again, a time in your life or maybe a person, or a character that you think of the Knight of Wands?
Ooh, that's a good one. Hmm. It's funny, and this may sound a little maybe hypocritical to some degree, but I felt like I was in that path in my corporate America journey. Like I thought, oh, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But then when I had my awakening journey, or when it started, and I realized I wasn't, like it helped me understand the difference between why I felt I
Mhm.
was in an aligned journey versus now looking back and actually really being able to realize why that was more of a facade in
Yeah.
terms of where I was going. And this kind of like how I said, I had suppressed a lot of things about my spiritual gifts and things like that. Um, was I was able to apply that to where I thought I was going and why I wasn't going on the journey that I was supposed
Mhm.
to be on. And so I it kind of doesn't make sense because of what the card represents, but that's really kind of how I felt at that time,
Yeah,
like I was on the right path.
and I think the Knights believe they are too, and it doesn't mean they can't pivot
Yeah,
down the
sure.
line,
Yeah,
right?
yep,
Like, that's
yeah.
also part of life, to be honest.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I would say my wife definitely plays a knight role.
Mm,
She plays the knight and queen role because when we think about the queens being very creative, my wife is a very creative person, but she also can reel me in when I start, you know, going off, whether it's on a tangent, regardless of what it is. She can reel me back onto path, if you will. So yeah, she definitely plays
She's
a
like, "Yeah,
knight role.
ease
Yeah,
you
yeah,
back.
like
Here,
yes,
go back
yes,
up."
correct course. Oh,
Oh, goodness. For me, I attribute a little bit of the Knight of Wands. My dad has some of that energy for sure. He's
okay,
very much like the kind of person who he throughout my life with him, of course, has tried so many different things. Some things stick, other things do not.
sure,
But
yeah,
when he has an idea, that's it. Like, that's the idea that sticks, and that's the ambition,
hmm,
and that's the goal, and we're going to make progress towards it. Sometimes we burn up before we get there because, such is
yep,
life.
yep,
But he definitely has that. It's like that spark of an idea, and it's beyond the page because he actually takes action on it.
awesome. I love
We
that. Yes,
don't always have
yep,
the follow through, but because
sure,
I
sure,
feel
yeah,
like that's also very night energy where you're so into it and you're so passionate, and then you're like, I'm just not quite
yeah,
feeling it. And it's
yes,
knowing that now I have to pivot course and giving yourself the
sure.
ability and grace to do so.
Yeah, very. I'll take it 90%, and it's like damn near perfect. And then if I lose interest with that last 10%,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm
I
out.
can't judge,
I'm
same.
out.
It's not worth the last 10% push.
Nope, nope.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Absolutely.
But yes,
Yeah.
any last thoughts on our pair?
I love the fact that we pulled, in order cards of the same suit. I mean, that just speaks volumes, I think, to the journey, the fun of doing something like this. I absolutely, I don't, all the cards we could have pulled, right?
Yeah.
There's no majors, no variation in the suit, back-to-back cards we pulled in two different countries
Yeah, and just because and
and two
for
different
any
decks.
and no one was here when we were talking just before we started recording, but we were talking about, "Oh, what if we pull the same card? Wouldn't that be hilarious?" And we got pretty
Yes,
darn close.
we did damn close. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I mean,
what
there's no closer thing than what we
no,
did here. So
exactly.
yeah.
What do you think these 2 have to say for, like, the collective as a whole, or how can these cards
Ooh,
help people?
love that. Yeah, I would say, I think and this is from just an intuitive nudge as well
Mhm.
as what I see from people and my clients that I work with, the Facebook groups that I'm in. I think people are becoming more and more open to the ideas and to the concepts, but I think they are still a little hesitant and scared to maybe admit it, even to themselves. And a lot of it has to do with their circles and fear of being judged by their circles. And I think these two cards speak very well to that in terms of don't be afraid to express and experience the curiosity behind some of the things that you're feeling. Whether you want to still keep that to yourself, that's fine. There are a ton of support groups online. And I say support not in terms of, I mean, there is support for you. Adrian and I are here to
Yeah,
help
we're
and
here.
support. But there are groups of us, the like-mindedness, to where you don't have to feel the isolation and the aloneness and the fear of being judged. I think that's more on the page of one side of things.
Yeah.
And I think on the night side of things is once you get to that point and you start to see it, you will really send and start to get a sense of peace and inner safety, if you will, once you start giving yourself the permission to explore the curiosity of those things that you may be feeling.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that, like, just trusting and being bold and experimenting even. Like, pages don't
Yeah.
have anything figured out, right? So, like, it's
No.
giving
Yeah.
yourself that permission and that courage because it can take courage, especially if you live in a place
Hmm.
where these kinds of ideas are maybe not so supported. I understand why people hide away from it
Yep.
or,
Sure.
who wants to
Yeah.
be judged, who wants to be feeling like an outcast. But with
Hmm.
the wands, it's like be bold and be brave in your pursuit, and that spark will ignite. And doesn't it feel so good
Absolutely.
when that spark
Yes.
ignites in like the
Yep.
pit of your stomach and you're like, no, this is where I'm meant to be going?
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
so
You
worth it.
will. Yes. Once you start to truly understand your intuition and understanding the nudges and trusting your gut, again, another cliche phrase.
Yeah.
Once you start to follow that and to understand it, and you take those baby steps,
Mhm.
then you'll start walking, and then you'll start running, and then you'll get to that night energy, and you're off to the races at that point.
And you might trip or fall along the way, but it's like you pick yourself back
Absolutely.
up because you have that bravery within you, because you have that fire within you to do so. So like
Yep.
allow it to
Yep.
burn
100%.
in the best of
Absolutely.
ways. Like
Yes.
burn in a good way.
Yes. 100%. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
caveat there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing
Of
this. How
course.
can
Thank you for the
people,
invite.
yeah, how can people find you or work with you? I'll put your links, of course,
Yeah.
below. So if anybody wants to check
Beautiful.
out
Thank you.
Brandon's work, please look below
Yeah.
and click away.
Awesome. Yeah. So my website is theawakenedcrowd.com. My podcast is The Awakened Crowd as well. It's on all platforms. I am taking a break over the summer because I want to add a video piece to it. So I'm looking to fire that back up late August, early September. But there are 15 episodes out there right now that are still available. And then, if anybody, as I mentioned when I started, my awakening journey started with having my son. I wrote a children's bedtime story called Alden and the Light That Blinked Back. That's available on Amazon. It's a beautiful bedtime story that helps kids and parents as a tool to be able to help them understand intuition from an early age, and how to start trusting like those little tummy flutters that we all get, and to embrace that and to help explain that through a gentle bedtime story. So
I love that. And I love the idea too of like allowing children to explore at such a young age because they're so much more apt to be able to expand and really dig into their intuition because their brains are
yes,
just like sponges and
yes,
nothing is
absolutely.
scary or forbidden or taboo
Hmm.
or weird at that point. So the
Yep,
more we can
yep.
encourage that, I feel like the better our world will be.
Absolutely, 100%. No doubt about that. Yes, yes. But no, thank you for having me on. I absolutely love this. I look forward to having you back on when I get things started because
Yes.
I have a bajillion questions because I love this. I love tarot, and I love to do it, but there's still so much knowledge out there to be learned
Oh,
from tarot and how to use it as a healthy permission slip tool, whatever phrasing you want to use. And you have a wealth of knowledge. So I love when we
um,
get to interact.
me too. I always have a great time chatting with you, and I appreciate you coming on and chatting cards with me because I
Of
will
course.
talk there
Yes.
forever.
Yes.
I
I love
will.
it. Yes.
And for sharing
Oh,
insights. I really appreciate it. So, if you're
of course.
listening or watching, make sure you check the notes and you can find all of our links down there. Brandon, thank you again so much for being
Of
on,
course.
and we'll
Thank
chat
you.
soon, I'm sure.
Of course. Yes.